Hello and thank you for joining us on Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Brandon Yates and today we'll be chatting about the latest action from Euro 2024. We'll discuss the teams that have reached the last 16, players and teams that have impressed or disappointed, trending Euro 2024 topics on Chinese social media, and predict who can go on to win the title. I'll be getting into these topics with my two fantastic co-hosts, Fuyu and Tianyu. And Fuyu, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we're very happy to have you back. And I think this is a topic that we're all going to enjoy talking about. I know we all love football, and European international football in particular is very, very exciting.
Yeah, biggest football event of this summer.
For sure. And I think there is, like we've mentioned in previous podcasts, there's something magical about the Euros. I've always enjoyed watching, European continental international competition at that level. And I think even at this point, as some teams have already reached the last 16, we've seen some very impressive performances, some surprise performances. But I think even at these relatively early stages of the competition, just getting to that last 16, I think we've already seen some teams that have really laid down a marker and announced themselves as serious title contenders already. So from your side of things, Fuyu, which teams have impressed you the most so far at this point of the competition?
Well, now I think it's a good time to talk about Germany, but I wouldn't call them title contenders yet.
Yeah.
I know I've said this, that after they won the World Cup in 2014, I'm not a supporter anymore. But this year, I have a few reasons to watch out for Germany.
Yeah.
Number one is the return of Toni Kroos. And second, there are still a lot of Bayern Munich players on this German squad. And
some Leverkusen players that have come through after an incredible domestic season.
Newly crowned Bundesliga champions.
Yeah, unbeaten. Yeah.
Well, incredible success. And in case you haven't noticed, I put Toni Kroos ahead of Bayern Munich when it comes to my expectations.
Right.
And I think it's just exciting to see a veteran getting back. Getting that callback. And he is one of the few players that have earned that, which I'm going to talk about.
And not just any veteran, right? I mean, literally one of the greatest midfielders, I think, of the last couple of generations. I mean, in terms of the qualities that he brings, the experience that he brings, the titles that he's won, he's just a world-class player.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, Toni Kroos, he's still got it.
Yeah.
His passes, his coverage, and
I mean, look what he's doing at Real Madrid. I mean, Real Madrid are still dominating domestically and on the European club competition stage.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's still sharp, why he blends seamlessly into the national squad, despite a hiatus.
Yeah. He still seems to have that desire, similar to the likes of Luka Modric, who's obviously his teammate at Real Madrid, so it seems like age isn't a factor for them in terms of their diminished desire to continue to achieve success. And that seems to have filtered into the German national team with Kroos's return. And it seems like players like him have also been very dedicated in terms of how they take care of themselves. And like you've said, staying sharp, putting in the numbers in terms of stats. So even though they are at the latter stages of their career, they are seen as veterans, they are still performing as well as the youngsters in the squad, plus all of the experience that they bring.
Yeah.
And like I've said, they don't have any diminished desire. And I also think the fact that Germany are hosting the Euros, it's kind of a perfect time for Kroos to return to the national setup because it is on home soil.
Yeah.
And if he can be a part of a team that achieves Euro 2024 success in Germany with the national team, I mean, it will just be another feather in his cap and just another title to add to his seemingly endless list of individual and team titles with, like I said, as an individual with Real Madrid and with Germany.
Yeah, playing this tournament at home was also something I was going to mention. They enjoy that home support. So yeah, I think this German squad will go further in this tournament. And back to some of Toni Kroos's stats.
Yeah.
He so far within the group stage, he had more than 300 passes, which equaled his own record from 8 years ago. So that says just how consistent and how he's managed to maintain this high level of performance.
And you'll probably find most of those passes were completed passes if you know Toni Kroos.
He helped this German squad complete a very efficient they very efficiently got through the group stage.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, what I'd like to see even more from Toni Kroos is creativity, something that he is known for. So I think these qualities and the fact that they're playing at home will really help this German squad do very well at this tournament.
Tianyu, from your side of things, have there been any other teams that have really caught your eye so far?
Yeah, I would say the most impressive teams so far are, like you mentioned, Germany and also Spain.
Yeah.
Germany seems to have been reborn as a different team. Under coach Nagelsmann, they have found their right formula for initiating attacks. You know, we used to talk about how Germany was so obsessed with ball possession that they lacked the ability to convert their advantage into real goals. But now with the return of Toni Kroos, he has taken up the role of a commander on the back line where there's less body confrontation and he can organize the tempo of the team in a very comfortable manner.
Yeah, he's a very reliable source in the midfield.
There also seems to be a lot more players taking on the goal-scoring responsibility for Germany, which has been a problem for them in the past. They've generally had a lot of creativity and a lot of possession, like you mentioned, but they didn't really have finishes. But now it seems like a variety of players are really stepping up and scoring goals at critical times for this team.
Yeah, for sure. And that has given the three attacking midfielders, namely Musiala, Gundogan, and Florian Wirtz.
What a lineup.
Yeah,
I mean, those
what a
are three
lineup.
world-class players.
Yeah.
And to have Toni Kroos behind them.
Yeah.
Wow, you don't even need a striker with that.
Yeah, with the support of Toni Kroos, they have more freedom in the front.
And Havertz holding up the ball and creating space for some of those other players.
Yeah, create spaces and chances in the box. I think the young people in the front, especially Wirtz and Musiala, they have injected a lot of vigor and variety into this.
I'm sure Bayern fans will be hoping that Musiala can bring that into next season.
Yeah,
I think he will do it.
I'm not sure if he can still keep up that form after an intense European championship.
True, and he'll be targeted after this Euros because he's now displaying what a world-class player he is.
Yeah, it's insane. And also Spain is probably the team that changed the most from my view.
Yeah, to their defensive record, I mean, they've been absolutely rock solid at the back, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, their playing style has changed a lot. They have abandoned the tiki-taka style.
Although I don't think they have the players to facilitate that style anymore. They don't really have players that are very good at dominating possession. Yes, they've got Pedri, yes, they've got Rodri, but I mean, you can't compare them yet to the likes of Iniesta, Xavi and Busquets. So they've still got very classy midfielders, but I don't think they have the players that can really just hang on to the ball and be patient and wait for chances to kind of create themselves. Now they seem to be more aggressive in terms of sending the ball forward and actually just trying to pressure teams and trying to create spaces out of nothing. Whereas previously they kind of just held onto the ball and waited for something to happen.
Yeah, I think after the retirement of, like you said,
the best midfield three in history, Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta. Yeah. It doesn't get better than that. Well, besides maybe Kroos, Modric and Casemiro back in the day. Yeah.
And this Spanish team has started to play the traditional double wing power play. The two wings, Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, two youngsters that have been tearing it up at Euros with some support from Ferran Torres too.
Yeah, they have played very critical roles for this team.
They also, another set of players, despite their young age, seem to have no problems with the big stage and nerves or anything. They seem to be playing with total freedom and total confidence at their age is phenomenal.
Yeah, they have incredible ability in dribbling and impressive speed. And most importantly, both of them played, like you said, way more mature than their real age.
But that being said, I think they've also got Spain have got some key experienced players in certain positions like Rodri, Dani Carvajal, Nacho, Alvaro Morata up front. So yes, there is a lot of exciting youth in that team, like Germany, but they've also got very experienced players in key positions, like Germany.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that those teams are really dominating at these early stages.
Yeah, they have a really stable lineup.
Yeah,
and
it's a
talking
good
about
mix of youth and experience.
Yeah.
Very good mix.
Talking about the youngsters, I think they are really good at reading games and can always keep calm and handling balls when playing under pressure. And especially Yamo, there are reports saying that at the age of 16, he has brought his homework.
Yeah, I've seen photos
Germany.
of him doing
Those
his
are not
homework
only
after games.
reports. Yeah, I've seen videos.
Incredible.
Doing his
incredible.
homework
Yeah.
while preparing for the Euros.
Yeah.
That was insane.
It makes me feel bad. When I was a teenager, I would always find some excuse to not do my homework. This guy's performing in one of the biggest global football tournaments and still has time to do homework.
Yeah, that's
Putting on one of the most noticeable performances.
A good message to you kids out there. It is possible to be world-class athletes and still do your homework.
Yeah, I hope his teacher reduced some of the workload for him.
I hope so too, yeah.
for his good performance on the Euros.
But yeah, it has been amazing from Spain, right?
Yeah.
I've also been particularly impressed by Portugal. I think they've been very, very good at this stage. I think that Ruben Diaz and Pepe at the back have been really great.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, 41. Is he 41, I
Yeah,
think?
41.
I mean, he's been immense. Bruno Fernandes also performing incredibly well. Hopefully he can take that and try and save Manchester United next season, single-handedly maybe. A couple of other players... Vitinho, what is Bernardo Silva? That's the name from City has also been really, really good. And even Ronaldo has chipped in at some point with a couple of assists, and he's also been performing really well. Although it does seem like Ronaldo's fame could potentially be a problem if Portugal continue to progress, because I think they've had a couple of issues with pitch invaders. And I think they've also had to tighten up security and that sort of thing. So it seems like Ronaldo's fame is actually having an impact on the Portuguese national team. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Portugal do as the competition progresses. But yeah, I think Spain and Germany in particular have been very, very impressive. And I think Portugal have also had a say in terms of how well the group stages have been for them and how good they are looking going into the last 16. There have been a couple of surprises in terms of the teams that have reached the last 16. Tianyu, are there any teams that you can single out at this point where you thought, wow, I wasn't expecting them to get to the last 16?
I think Switzerland has been quite a surprise for me. They actually, I don't think they have that level impressive lineup like Spain and.
I think Yang Guang actually initially in our last podcast, I think those were Switzerland was one of the teams that he picked out to potentially be a surprise package. So it seems like Yang Guang's prediction has come right.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because Switzerland seemed like the team that you wouldn't be surprised to see them qualify, but you'd be surprised
by their performance.
I was considering their group. I wasn't expecting them to get through.
Yeah.
And pretty successfully too, and being able to get a result against, I mean, they didn't win, but to get a draw against Germany, I think for any team is a pretty impressive result.
Yeah, I think they were playing in a very organized and flexible manner. Granit Xhaka and Akanji have formed a very stable defense line for the Swiss side.
I think that's something that maybe people didn't expect to see when they thought of Switzerland. When you actually look at that team, I often talk about the spine of a team, and I think Switzerland have a very solid spine. They've got Sommer as a keeper who's highly experienced, and I've always been a big fan of his shot-stopping abilities. Akanji has been great for City this season. Xhaka has been immense for Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. And I think Mbolo up front has also been doing good work with some support from Shaqiri, who scored a wonder goal in one of his games. I can't remember which game it was, but Shaqiri's always been one of those players that you can't really predict, kind of like a Balotelli type of player where, they've got the talent, but they aren't able to reproduce it on a regular basis. But he's stepped up with the goods so far for Switzerland in these early stages. So they've got a nice combination of experience, talent, and solidness in that team that I think has paid dividends for them so far.
Yeah, so they have leadership in the back line setting the course of the ball, and their high pressing strategy has worked out pretty well in a game
similar
against
to
Germany.
what we've seen from Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, right? So I guess that kind of comes from the likes of Xhaka.
Yeah, and they have caused a lot of trouble for the host nation. Their midfielders have very good stamina and are
very
able
combative too, right? Yeah, they're able to shut things down.
Yeah, they're able to cover a wide area on the pitch. I think Toni Kroos just had the most uncomfortable match so far in Euro Cup when playing against Switzerland.
He probably thought, oh, I should have just retired. I could be sitting on a couch in my million-pound mansion right now watching it,
And because he had to face frequent body confrontations from Swiss players.
They probably target him specifically and said, listen, you should probably rethink your retirement, old man.
That's their tactics.
Yeah.
And Cruz couldn't find his teammates with passes very well, as the Swiss side did a very good job in pressing ahead.
I'm actually quite surprised that Italy even made it through to the last 16. I know they're the defending champions, but when I look at that team, no real stars, no real match winners in that team that I can identify. So were you also a little bit surprised by Italy's performances and getting through to the last 16? I really wasn't expecting them to get there, to be honest.
I mean, I have expected them to get through, but the way they get through is quite,
Yeah, pretty impressive, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've shown, even though I think Switzerland, even though they're not necessarily a team that's recognized for star quality, although as we've just discussed now, it does seem like they do have very solid players in key positions. I think that Italy have shown the same amount of resilience that the Swiss team has without that solidness that they have in terms of player availability. So I think Italy definitely surprised me by getting through to this stage, but I also think they deserve a lot of credit for the resilience that they've shown, which I think could potentially be very beneficial for them go further into the competition, because generally when you get to those quarterfinal, semi-final and final stages, star quality and experience means a little bit less than resilience does, and it does seem like that Italian team is full of resilience. We've also seen some impressive performances from a couple of individual players for you. Any standouts for you?
I'll say N'Golo Kante. It's so good to see him back. Like similar to Toni Kroos, he's one of the players that's earned a callback to the national team.
And before the tournament even started, all of the coaches, all of the players, in all of the press conferences where you thought they'd be talking about Mbappe and all of the other star players that they have, they kept saying, we're so happy to have N'Golo back. We're so happy to have N'Golo back. And even the likes of Thierry Henry and Patrick Vieira and a couple of panelists that work for TV shows, they kept going on and on about Kante, because I think football players and just football people recognize the amount of great work that N'Golo Kante does for any team that he plays for.
Yeah, and that's for one part of the story. And besides that, there are also a lot of questions and doubts about his return, because after all, he hasn't played for the national squad for 2 years, and he's been away from Europe. So I understand where those doubts are coming from. Myself included, I'm a big fan of N'Golo Kante. I've spoken about that, I think 2 or 3 seasons ago, when he was still at the Premier League during one of our Premier League discussions.
Right.
And he, to be honest, before the start of Euro 2024, I didn't know if he still possessed those qualities, such as his wide coverage, clinical finish.
He's just the engine that never stops running. I just think no matter where he plays or no matter how long he's gone out for, he seems to have this engine that just really outdoes any other player that we can think of.
He's inexhaustible energy. And
he's good with the ball at his feet too. I think a lot of people underestimate what he can actually do with the ball.
Yeah, and so in the games against Austria and the Netherlands, he definitely proved that he still got those qualities, and I'm just so glad that Deschamps made the right decision to include him again in the national team.
Can you imagine how happy the midfielders around him are when he's in the team too, because they also have to do a lot less running when Kante's in the team. So you probably find his teammates are like, yes, less running for us, Kante's back.
So Kante deserved to be voted the player of the match for those 2 games against the Netherlands and Austria. And here I want to bring back that joke from China, which is coming back along with N'Golo Kante, and it goes, there's no bump you cannot overcome, but there is Kante which you can never beat.
That's a mountain, not a bump.
And it actually makes a lot more sense if you speak Chinese, because in this joke, bump is 坎, and Conte is Kanté, so it's
Oh,
only
right.
one word difference. And
So we could call him N'Golo Bump,
yeah, I suppose you can
Yeah.
do that. A nightmare.
which is very
for-
fitting for his playing style. He really is a bump in the road. If someone's
Yeah.
got the ball, it's going to be
He's a-
very difficult to get over that bump.
Yes, a nightmare for players from the other side
Yeah,
of the
but
pitch.
a dream for his teammates.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible player to have in the squad.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think just like N'Golo Kante was a big part of France's World Cup victory, he could potentially also be the game changer, or
Yeah.
game maker for France at this year's Euro 2024.
And the unexpected one too, because I think a lot of people, like you said, were questioning whether he still had that motor that just keeps on running and is still able to break up play. And it really does seem like he is still playing at the highest level that we've ever seen from him, going back to his Leicester City days even. So
It's like he never left.
yeah, literally. So he's been an incredible addition for France, and he's been absolutely incredible up at Euro 2024.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tianyu, any standouts from your side?
I think, like we said, there's a group of young players that are really shining at this year's Expo. Like I said, in Germany, Musiala and Wirtz are playing pretty well, especially Musiala. Sometimes watching him play reminds me of watching Ronaldinho.
Ooh, big comparison to make.
Those were some big shoes to
Very
fill.
big shoes to fill. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's got talent. I think he's just as creative and agile on the pitch.
Big comparisons being made, just as creative as
prove it.
Ronaldinho. Wow, that's going to cause some debate.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I can't deny that he has been absolutely brilliant for Germany, but I think he's got a long way to go to.
Still,
You know, the
still needs
streets
to
will
prove
never forget
himself.
Ronaldinho, and I
Yeah.
think he's got some way to get there. But it is apt in a sense, because I think he has brought that creative flair that maybe Germany required to unlock defenses, and he's been absolutely brilliant with that. And he's been scoring goals too,
Yeah.
so he's been amazing for Germany. One of my standout players for sure.
And also, the two Spanish wingers, Nico Williams and Yamal,
Yeah.
have been quite outstanding.
Yeah, when they're not doing their homework, they're doing amazing things on the field. Yeah, maybe they're doing great work off the field too. Maybe they're getting straight A's. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to be playing important roles for this Spanish squad for quite a long time in the future.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and also some of the old guns have proved that they are still top level players. And among them, Pepe is definitely the most surprising one for me, because he's already 41 years old.
The uncle at the back for Portugal. We've got an uncle at the front in Ronaldo and an uncle at the back
two
in
uncles
Pepe. Yeah.
becoming the pivots for.
But it's pretty
mainstay.
remarkable how we've got these youngsters, 17, 18-year-olds that are tearing it up, but we've also got people that are 20 years older than them that
Yeah.
are also really competing at the highest levels. That's what's
yeah.
amazing about international football, is that you get a whole bunch of different generations that are competing at the same stage. You'll probably find that the likes of Yamal and Nico Williams were, still
Not
very,
even
very young
born.
children staring at the TV watching,
watching
Pepe and
them play.
Ronaldo play, and
Yeah.
now they're playing in the same competition. And even
Yeah.
in their own team, you'll probably find that Lamine Yamal and Pedri and some of those players were watching the likes of Dani Carvajal and some of those players watching
Watching
them
growing
on
up.
TV.
Yeah.
And now they're in the same team. It must
Yeah.
be the most surreal experience for them.
Yeah. It's like dreams come true.
Yeah, literally.
And, talking about Pepe, he's definitely a beast.
Yeah.
It seems like age.
He's always been a beast though, right? He's always just been one of those players that attackers are very
Most
scared
afraid
of.
of.
Yeah, he's still the same person, except he's now a 41-year-old beast.
Right. Yeah.
But it seems like age has left him nothing on him but more maturity and composure.
If anything, he's more deadly now than he was when he was a youngster, because I
Yeah.
think that he was incredibly intimidating as a young player, but maybe a little bit brash and sometimes made some
Yeah.
bad decisions. But
Yeah.
now he's still got that fear factor, but he's also, like you said, a lot more mature, a lot more experienced. So having that at the back for Portugal, I think, has been very valuable alongside the brilliance of Ruben Diaz from City.
Yeah, he's got like get rid of all the bad habits and keep all the good ones.
Yep.
He's like 14 years older than his defender partner Ruben Diaz. But the impact, I would say, Pepe had on the pitch was also
Yeah.
a lot larger, because sharp
Uncle Pepe.
movements.
Yeah.
Uncle Pepe. Sharp movements, beautiful tackles, and always appearing on the right position.
Another example of no matter what age you are, if you take care of yourself, you can really still play for as many years as you'd like. And
Yeah.
Ronaldo's another outstanding example of that.
Yeah, it's actually really touching to see how these veterans players are still having top-class performance because you don't know how much efforts they had to take to maintain their forms and adapt their body to the intense tempo of the games.
Absolutely. And I think I'd have to agree with both of you. I think those have all been the standout players so far. And we've mentioned a couple of others like Bruno Fernandes for Portugal. So there have been a lot of standout performers, but I think the ones that we've mentioned now have really been top draw. Of course, we have our own opinions, but there's also a lot of opinions emerging on social media about Euro 2024. It's an incredibly popular tournament in this country. Tianyu, from your side, anything trending on Chinese social media at the moment with regards to Euro 2024?
Well, I think one of the trending topics on Chinese social media right now is how England, with literally the best squad on this world right now, struggles so much in the games. Because Chinese fans are lashing out at England manager Gareth Southgate, questioning his coaching ability and fielding strategy.
Yeah, and I think there's been similar anger felt from the English fans as well. I think they've also expressed some discontent towards Southgate, along with some very famous pundits in England, the likes of Gary Neville, Ian Wright, Roy Keane, etc.
Yeah, his reluctance to give chances to Cole Palmer and Kobe Mainu.
And the whole Trent Alexander in midfield thing, it's very bizarre.
His obsession with using Alexander-Arnold as a midfielder have really stirred up the fury among England fans. Some say watching England play was like watching a bunch of world-class players playing for the first time together. And like we said in our previous episode, I think Southgate is probably the biggest weakness of this English team right now.
Yeah, at this early stage. We'll have to wait and see how things pan out. But I think there has definitely been some discontent from England fans around the world towards not necessarily the team, but it seems to be directly targeted at Southgate for sure. For you, from your side, anything that people are talking about?
There are a lot of Chinese sponsors for Euro 2024.
A couple of ones that I didn't know about before I came to China, but I've noticed on the screens, like, Alipay and a couple of others as well,
And they're all involved in very creative and innovative ways. For example, Chinese car maker BYD, they are providing official vehicles, new energy vehicles for official transportation.
Very cool.
So it's exciting to see Chinese companies bringing their new ideas and their technology to this stage. Other Chinese sponsors support Euro 2024, like home appliances maker Hisense is providing solutions for VAR on the pitch. And
so they're not just sponsoring, they're actually actively participating in the competition and actually helping out and creating solutions for day-to-day issues that some of the players and officials are dealing with. That's great to see.
Important issues, because VAR
that's crucial.
Yes, VAR is involved in important decision making on the pitch. And other
it can make or break a tournament sometimes, VAR decisions.
Sure, and create topics for people to talk about even long after the conclusion of the tournament. And other Chinese involvements, such as Alipay, the trophy for the tournament's top scorer is actually being presented by Alipay, and the trophy comes in the shape of a football player.
Very cool.
And it's also the shape of the Chinese character of payment. And they make the two of the strokes into like legs of the football player.
Oh, okay.
So I think
that's very creative.
The top scorer or whoever sees this trophy will really like it, and it's also I think it's also important to bring some Chinese culture into a sport event.
And it's just great to see that some of those innovations and some of that creativity from China and Chinese brands is being shown on the world stage. I think that's really, really great to see. But yes, I think there's still plenty of excitement to look forward to as Euro 2024 progresses. But that's all we have time for on this week's episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we will be back next week with our latest topic, and we'll see you then.
This is CGTN Radio. Hear the difference.